What makes customers happy at My Amazon Guy? My name is Stephen Pope. I'm the founder of My Amazon Guy, and I put together a top 10 reasons why a customer might be happy and a top 10 reasons why a customer might be unhappy. Sometimes it's good to do both the inverse as well as the regular so you can get kind of a both picture angle, because you might say the same thing backwards and it means something completely different. All right, so let's dive in. All I know is that if I grow an account, chances of my brand or client being happy is ridiculously high. They can justify our expense in seconds. Mag is charging them $5,000. We made them $100K a month. That's an easy sign off. Nobody has an issue doing that. They're going to be happy. That won't necessarily prevent them from firing you when they don't want to pay the commission from the revenue growth and all of that. Separate topic. But in general, this focus of this particular video is what makes them happy. So whenever you're thinking about prioritization of like where you should spend your time and how you focus things, when it comes to growing the account, that is bar none the most important thing that you can do. So we always try and focus on that. A lot of different things that we do to grow an account are obvious, from PPC and SEO, CTR, and all kinds of other design, merchandising, and other aspects of the account. Those are core to growing an account at MAG. The second is when we reduce their expenses. So for example, if we lower their ad spend while simultaneously not shrinking sales. So for example, let's say they're $100K a month in sales and they have an ACoS of 50%. We lower that ACoS down to 40% and they're still at $100K in sales. That's going to be a happy client, because that means they're now making an extra 10% on their ad spend. So reducing expenses is very similar to sales growth. We don't get as much credit for reducing expenses typically. It's more of a fleeting memory. You'll have to remind the brand that you reduce those expenses over and over again to justify your existence, because when they look at the proverbial Amazon seller app and they look at growth, they're not thinking about expenses on a routine daily basis when they're doing those kinds of sales check-ins. All right, the third one here is probably the most interesting one. This is something I would not have come up with on my own, but because I talk to my customers quite a bit, I was able to get this out of one of our customers, and that is mind reading. Now, what do I mean by that? Give customers what they want before they ask for it. That's a really interesting platinum version of what I have been preaching for many years, which is ask customers what they want, give it to them, and then verify you gave them what they wanted. That's like the golden version of this. But the platinum one is give them what they want before they ask and mind read. And this one's been really making me think quite a bit, because how do you do that? How do you mind read a customer? Well, there's a lot of different things you could do. Be proactive pitching, trying to give them new sales growth areas or opportunities. We have a brand manager playbook for that. Clear vision and roadmap. So, hey, here's what we're doing for the rest of this year. Here's what we're doing for the next 12 months. Clear picture, right? Tell them where we're going before we go there. Focusing on areas that they may not necessarily know are important and bringing it to their attention. So, for example, a non-PPC area, such as SEO or click-through rate or some of these other things, subscribe and save or B2B pricing. Some of these things that may seem pretty minor, but you're mind reading the customer, because you're going to give them things that they haven't asked for, but they need to reduce their expenses and to grow the account, right? So if the core thing that we do is to grow accounts and reduce expenses, then mind reading on how to do that and doing it many, many other ways. You are the professional. They are looking to you for that guidance. All right, number 4, troubleshooting success with the listings or the account. So if there's a listing yank, the account gets suspended. When you resolve that, especially if you resolve it before the customer asks for it, right? So giving the customer what they want before they ask for it, or catching something before they bring it to your attention. And by the way, when an account has a major issue, sending a one-liner to the client to say, hey, we're working on this right now, is very helpful. We see a lot of clients abandon an agency during times of crisis if there's not fast communication. Because what's the point of the relationship if you're not there when you need them? It would be like your girlfriend putting the dog down at the vet and you're not there for it, right? Like that's a cardinal sin. Your girlfriend's never going to forgive you for that, no matter how much you try. So got to be there during listing suspensions, account suspensions, and you got to act fast and communicate. Makes them happy. All right, number 5, meeting milestones. So this one's a little tricky because sometimes it's very difficult to get a brand to commit to their goals, and you have to ask a lot of questions and get to know them. Sometimes they just want the whole catalog optimized. Other times it's about profitability. Other times it's about hitting a $1 million mark in sales. So this particular thing has a lot of crossover to some of the other items that make customers happy, but you have to celebrate those wins, right? Like, and then this is something I personally struggle with quite a bit. Like, how do you celebrate wins? Well, for me, I make another goal. Like, that's how I celebrate. Like, I'm a super high drive guy. Okay, I just got to the top of the lost city in Colombia. What's next? Let's go hike Guatemala's volcano. Let's go to Japan and Thailand. Heck yeah, sign me up. But for clients, you need to meet those milestones and celebrate with them, and get the proverbial beer glass out or whatever it is that makes them feel good. But at very least, meet the milestone and celebrate it. All right, number 6, copy and designs that we create for them that don't need revisions. If you can create something that's so good that the client's like, go live, you're in great shape. And if you wow the client at the first delivery especially, that's going to be a very, very happy client. This is pretty rare in my experience. Clients love to have revisions and feel like they're in control. And there's a lot of psychology about people putting in obvious changes so the client has something to nitpick to change. And I'm not a fan of that personally, but I know a lot of agencies do that. But doing something that doesn't require revisions is going to make a customer happy. Number 7, all communication responded to in under 4 business hours. Not 24 hours, but 4 business hours. And the faster, the better. I've seen this time and time again. The faster communication is, the happier a client relationship is. And I'm a fast typer. I type 123 words per minute. Nobody in the company types that fast as me. I'm not expecting anybody to match that or even come close. But we do try and set a baseline around 55. So if you're above 55, you're in great shape. If you're below that, you need to take some typing classes. And that's beneficial because it allows you to respond to customers faster. Maybe you're an extrovert, you're going to do some phone calls. That's cool too. No problem there. But respond. Do not work on something in the shadows without them knowing, and 4 hours go by and they fire us because you didn't respond. Number 8, brand expertise and sharp recall on past issues and strategies. So know the brand as if it were your own. And if you do that, that's going to make a very, very happy client. So you remember what happened last Prime Day. You know that this brand can't run a certain type of promotion or advertisement. You know that the brand has a very particular phraseology or design brief. And if you're new to the account and they've had history with the agency, there's going to be resentment here if you don't go back and review the notes and understand it very, very carefully. Number 9, a well-prepared meeting. So if you go in and you hit, and by the way, we set up these meetings structured. This has been the same way for years. And I purposely have meetings done the same way every single time. And that is, number 1, what is the reporting? Good, bad, and the ugly. Number 2, what have we accomplished for the last 2 weeks? Sometimes this can be a reminder, part of the agenda. Totally still go through it anyway. Number 3, what are we going to work on in the next 2 weeks? So you're telling them what we're going to be working on. And number 4, what do we need them to sign off on? And for most clients, they give you real-time sign-offs, but there's some clients that just ghost you and don't respond, and you have to really hit this one home on this particular agenda item in those meetings. So having those well-prepared meetings, structured, bullet points listed out, what you're going to pitch them, what you're going to be talking about, having it all written out. Sometimes you want to send that over in advance. Sometimes you don't. Just depends on the client, and dive all the way into that. All right, number 10, sharing what the competitors are up to. That doesn't mean you're going to copy them. It's very red ocean strategy if you just copy competitors, but knowing what they're up to. Maybe you changed your main image and all the competitors copied you. Maybe you see a competitor just coming out of nowhere. Paying attention to that, bringing it up to the brand and the customer, and showcasing that you're following attention. You're following what's going on with all of these other things that are going on. So those are the top 10 things that make customers happy. We did have 5 additional ones that I'll just kind of bullet point here, and that is getting 5-star review for the product, offering and managing additional services, whether that's Meta, Walmart, et cetera, Google, BSR and market share growth, which I can kind of think is just grow the account anyway, assistance in listing new products, which we're going to do that to grow the account again, and profitability analysis and growth. So telling them how to be more of a profit goalie and paying attention to that. So those are 5 additional ones, but they're kind of subpoints of the above 10 anyway. All right, so that brings us to what makes customers unhappy. Here's the top 10 things that make customers unhappy. Number 1, running out of cash. So the reason why I put this at number 1 is because this is the number 1 reason somebody fires Mag. And they're unhappy because they literally can't afford their bills. They can't afford to continue selling on Amazon. They can't afford to pay Mag. They can't afford to pay their employees. They can't afford to pay themselves. They are out of cash. A lot of people are flocking to sell on Amazon that don't have a lot of cash to begin with. Maybe they're side hustling while they work full-time jobs. Maybe they are a 22-year-old college student who only had $3,000 to spare here, and they're working out of their parents' basement. There's a lot of things that can happen to make a brand or a business run out of cash, and that is the number 1 thing that's going to make them unhappy. Because if they're out of cash, you're dead in the water, right? Cash is king. Every business book ever talks about cash, which is why it's number 1 on our unhappy list. So if you're aware of a brand being at risk for running out of cash, you are in crisis mode. Your clock is ticking. Right? There's only so much credit card debt they can run up to pay my Amazon guy to keep the lights on. I'm not a fan of pitching financial loan services to solve this problem, but to be honest, besides growing the account, there is very little I know what to do to solve this problem. And even if you grow the account, they may still be running out of cash because they tie up all their cash in inventory, at which point they're still going to fire my Amazon guy because they have all their cash tied up. So don't let them run out of cash. I don't have great training on this topic. We need to do more research on how to solve this. If you have strong opinions about this, do some legwork, share it with the organization, share it with others so we can figure out how to help people not run out of cash and alert in advance. Number 2, lack of sales growth, static or shrinking accounts. Economy withstanding, even if the economy sucks, if we're not growing the account, they're going to fire us. That's going to make them unhappy. What are they paying us for if they're not growing? Right? And so you got to have growth. You got to use that brand manager playbook to do all of the things that are required to grow an account. And it's very, very important. So if you don't do that, they're going to be unhappy. Number 3, any team change. Right? So the first 2 are kind of subpoints or inverses of the happy one. This is the first one where it's straight up it's kind of sits on its own. Right? If there's a brand manager change, point of contact change, that makes the client uneasy, unless they request it, which does happen from time to time. Maybe there's personality conflict or otherwise. You want to have longer-term relationships, tenured relationships between a brand and the agency, and the best way to do that is to have no team changes. Unfortunately, at agencies, team changes are inevitable, and the average client has probably a 7 to 8 month average tenure with their brand manager for various reasons, right? So if a client stays at MAG, let's say on average 9 months, and an employee stays at MAG on average 2 years, chances of there being a rotation here is quite close to 100%, just due to the coming and goings and the churns and the retention topics that people go through. Number 4, on what makes a customer unhappy, poor creative or copy deliverables. So spelling issues, lazy issues, things they've told us about, things that aren't on brand guidelines. And by the way, if you don't get a really strong output from the brand or client on what their guidelines are and their design brief, you're going to run into problems here. You're going to pay for the consequences on the back end. So it's better to get it up front, pull some teeth if you have to, so you don't deliver poor creative or copy deliverables. Spelling issues are going to kill the arrangement. Definitely run things through AI to avoid that. And in general, just ask questions for what you think the client is looking for and then give it to them and try and mind read if you can. Number 5, client needing to repeat themselves due to poor communication on our end, not knowing the niche. Maybe there's a team transfer, but whatever it is, if we have to make the client repeat themselves, it's going to piss them off. Now, there's a delineation here because often if a client says they want X, that doesn't mean they want X. Sometimes it means they want Y. And you have to ask discovery questions to figure out and verify what they really are looking for, right? And this is, similar to a relationship between a man and a woman. If a man asks, what do you want for dinner, to the wife, and the wife starts talking about steak, but she really wants lobster, but she's talking about steak, it might be because that's what the husband wants, and the wife is saying that to, forego any conflict in the relationship, right? So now that's a little bit of a stretch on the metaphor over to what a brand is asking for. But sometimes a brand might say they're looking for growth, but in reality, they're looking for profit. So you got to define what they're looking for and do check-ins on that and say, hey, last month you told us you were looking for growth. Just wanted to do a pulse check with you. That means you're looking for $7,000 in extra revenue this month. Is that still the goal? And it could change. Unless you ask, you won't know. Any unspoken expectation leads to resentment. That is great marriage and relationship advice for both your personal dating life as well as running a client at MAG. Number 6, slow deliverables and follow through. Taking longer than 8 business hours to respond is going to piss off a client. It's going to make them unhappy. And if you go a full week without any delivery, that's going to kill the relationship. So 1 week without any delivery, that's going to be a problem. Don't let that happen. Number 7, pricing errors, especially during a sale, holiday, or Prime Day. So you might give away or stack a promotion or give away the boat, give away the house, and that's going to be a problem. You don't want to have any pricing errors. Make sure you always understand how the items are supposed to be priced. We typically don't do a lot of price manipulation, so be very careful when you're being asked to do those things or setting up promotions. Don't let promotions stack. It's really bad. Number 8, not catching inventory issues resulting in an out of stock. Okay, if a client goes out of stock, that violates number 1 rule about Amazon, which is never go out of stock. The clients know that's our number 1 rule. So if we let them violate the number 1 rule, why are they paying us? If they're out of stock, they will shut down the relationship. It's going to make them unhappy. They're going to lose sales. They're going to lose BSR. They're going to lose traction, keyword rankings, and all the problems that we talk about when you go out of stock. So that's going to make a customer extremely unhappy. Don't allow that to happen. Number 9, excessive or inaccurate Amazon fees. This could be like a mismeasurement issue, which is extraordinarily common. People put case-size packings into the individual unit when they make their first shipment into Amazon because it's freaking confusing. It happens to almost every account ever. So you got to catch those. You got to audit that. My refund guy is not set up to audit this, unfortunately. This is going to have to be something that's done manually, or you're looking at it, or you ask the client, or you look at the measurements and verify that they make sense. All right, and finally, number 10, for making a client unhappy at My Amazon Guy, and that's auto billing. And the reason we do this, it's in our contracts. We want to be able to get paid for our services, and if we go over 30 days, the risk of us not getting paid is extremely high. So we tend to auto bill after a deadline is passed. We're a net 15 company, just due to the arrangements that we set up in our contracts. But if we get to day 30, we're going to auto bill, and that's going to piss people off because they might be out of cash and they might fire us. So if you know a client can't pay us on time, you need to flag that, because we're going to auto bill and it's going to cause a problem. Even though they agreed to it, even though they signed a contract, it will still cause massive friction. We have 6 other ideas on what makes customers unhappy. I'll do these in short. Overspending on advertising, not abiding by the TACOS metrics or the ACOS goals, spelling or repeated design errors, listing inks that the client catches or blames us for, and not working on agreed priorities. Maybe you're working on the wrong ASINs, and not knowing the product. So those are all things that can make a customer happy and unhappy while they are with My Amazon Guy. Be sure to follow those closely. And we did prioritize those lists in order of impact. So if you're trying to figure out where to start, you definitely want to start at the top. Grow the account, make them profitable. Don't let them run out of cash. Don't let them run out of stock. Try not to change the team. Those are the core takeaways from our conversation today. My name is Stephen Pope. I'm the founder of My Amazon Guy, and I just got a hair transplant. If you're wondering why I look like this, feel free to leave a comment, or maybe you got a different opinion. Feel free to share that as well. Thanks for watching.